Yes, we are on our day 4 of our writing project that we've been working on with our adventure stories. And so let's go ahead and look at another component to this. So you've been working hard on the middle of your story, and we were looking at adding showing sentences to provide more detail and to kind of help bring our story to life for our readers. So another way that we can do that is by using dialogue. And I did say that a lot of you have dialogue included in your writing already, which is fantastic. So not only are we looking at adding dialogue, we're also going to be looking at our dialogue that we already added just to see if we can freshen it up a little bit. So dialogue is one of those things that really helps the reader know how the characters are thinking and how they're feeling about the situations that we're in or that they're in. So I know you did learn about using dialogue probably back in 3rd grade, but we're gonna continue to work on adding that dialogue to our narrative. I think we also read dialogue all the time, and I can give you an example of that because I'm going to have you read this dialogue with me. This is something that we had in our Walk to Moons book. It was in our chapter called Evidence, and this is the part where Phoebe's mom had just left. They found all that food in their refrigerator or in their freezer that she had prepared for them ahead of time, and I think this maybe even was like the 2nd day that she was missing, and they were kind of wondering what was going on. They had gotten that note, but they hadn't heard from her yet. And then Dad comes home, and they're showing him the stuff that's in the freezer. So go ahead and read with me as I read through this. It's not very long. I'm just looking at one page here, but I want you to pay attention to the dialogue and what that does for the story. And I've highlighted the parts that I want to look at, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. It says, "I don't suppose you've heard anything from Mom?" Prudence asked her father. "Not yet," he said. "I think we should call the police," Phoebe said. "Phoebe." "I'm serious. I found some suspicious spots." Phoebe pointed towards 2 adhesive taped areas beneath the dining room table. "What's that tape doing down there?" he asked. Phoebe explained about the potential blood spots. "Blood?" Prudence said. She stopped eating. Phoebe pulled out the envelope and emptied the hair strands on the table. "Strange hairs," Phoebe explained. Prudence said, "Ugh." Mr. Winterbottom tapped his fork against his knife. Then he stood up, took Phoebe's arm, and said, "Follow me." He went to the refrigerator, opened the freezer compartment, and indicated the plastic containers. If your mother had been kidnapped by a lunatic, would she have had time to prepare all these meals? Would she have been able to say, "Excuse me, Mr. Lunatic, while I prepare 10 or 20 meals for my family to eat while I'm kidnapped?" "You don't care," Phoebe said. "Nobody cares. Everyone has his own idiot agenda." I left shortly after dinner. Mr. Winterbottom was in his study phoning his wife's friends to see if they had any idea of where she might have gone. "At least," Phoebe said to me, "he's doing something. But I still think we should call the police." So in this section, we see lots of dialogue. We can tell what Phoebe's thinking. We can get an idea about Prudence's attitude towards the situation. We can kind of tell that her dad is not real pleased with Phoebe, with her pushing about calling the police. He's not really on board with what's going on. So lots of dialogue to kind of really bring life to this whole situation or this whole part of it. The other thing we want to look at is how they're using dialogue. And so when you use dialogue, a lot of times you get stuck with one word, right? A lot of times we use that word "said" over and over and over again. But there's other ways to do this or to present dialogue without just using the word "said." There's actually a lot of words that we can use. So there's a couple of them that they have in here, but then I'm going to ask you to come up with some more. So I'm looking up here, and it says, let's see, Prudence asked her father. So that was a different way of saying something other than "said." Of course, we have "said" here, "said" there. Notice sometimes they don't even put who is talking because they've already defined it within their conversation. So we already know that this person saying Phoebe is her dad because we've seen dad speaking, Phoebe speaking, dad speaking, Phoebe speaking, dad speaking, Phoebe speaking. So there's kind of a pattern there. So sometimes you don't even need to have anything like "said" or "explained" or "asked." Let's keep looking. What's that? He asked. So again, he's not using "said." And if we go down further, Phoebe explained. So there's another way of saying that. And we're back to "said" here. So we have 3 different ways in this one. I know there's a lot more ways to figure out that word said or to replace said with. So I'd like you to give me just your short brainstormed list of other words that you can use instead of the word said. Go ahead and do that now. Okay, you've come up with some pretty good words. I also have a list that I can share with you. So here's some other things that you might say, and it just depends on the level of excitement or what's going on in your story. So some things you might say instead of said, you might say hollered, you might say joined in. So that's like if someone was having a conversation, you might say something like, Steve joined in with a joke or something like that. You might say called, asked, cried, giggled, laughed, roared. So that sounds like somebody is maybe angry, screamed, whispered, sighed, hummed, exclaimed, begged. I think I've seen that one before. Interrupted. And I was thinking of other ones like maybe they whimpered. That'd be something maybe if you're caught in a tough situation. I kind of liked this one that said giggled. And you guys came up with some extra ones too. So feel free to use the ones that you've come up with as well. This is just kind of some extras that you can use. So I am going to show you how you can add dialogue to a piece of writing, and I'm just going to use my adventure story to do that. One of the first things I'm going to do though is I'm going to take the highlighting from these places. I had this highlighting on there to show where I changed some sentences to some showing sentences, the ones that I added more detail. So I came up here to this highlighter. I'm going to go to the one that's checkmarked, and I'm just going to click on it again, and that should have gotten rid of my highlight. Oh, let me do that again. I'm going to go up to the highlighting, and this is what's checkmarked. I want to go up here to where it says none. There we go, and that'll take that off of there for me. Because I am going to, as you've probably guessed, have you highlight the changes that you're making today. So again, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to choose on none. Now I'm clear. All right, let's go ahead and look through this. It says, after a long day of shopping at the mall and hauling tons of bags around, Margot, Alexis, and I were ready to head out for a relaxing dinner, but something was wrong. As we were leaving the bathroom and walking towards the exit, we noticed no one else was around. When we got to the door, it was locked. We looked at one another and got a little nervous, but there had to be another door we could use. No luck. We were locked inside the mall, so we decided to make the best of it. Now I'm thinking right here, this seems a little dry to me. I think that we could add some dialogue in here to make it stand out more. One of the places I was looking at was where it says, we looked at one another and got a little nervous, but there had to be another door we could use. Well, I feel like once we found out it was locked, probably somebody would say something. So I'm going to add something here, and I'm going to, who should talk? Let's have Margot talk first. So I'm going to say, oh no. And notice what I'm doing here. I'm starting with quotation marks, and then the first letter of my first word is capitalized, following the quotation marks. Here's my punctuation, and then I've got my quotation marks here. Now, if this was a sentence without an exclamation point, I would be putting a comma instead. So, oh no, exclaimed Margot. There has to be another way out. Another way out. Who should say that? There has to be another way out. Let's go see. I replied. No, that sounds, I responded. I reasoned. Yeah, that sounds good. Or let me just go with I said on this one. Oh no, exclaimed Margot. There has to be another way out. Let's go see, I said. Ooh, I don't like the let's go see. See, notice how even as you're working with this, you can go back and reread and make these changes as you go. So don't feel like you have to have it perfect the first time. There has to be another way out, I said. We looked at one, and so that means that this page right here, I can tell that we're nervous because of the oh no. So I think I'm going to just get rid of this sentence right here because I've kind of already covered that, right? So, oh no, exclaimed Margot. There has to be another way out, I said. No luck. We were locked inside the mall. So we decided to make the best of it. So just so you know where that change has been made, I'm going to go ahead and highlight this part. So again, back up to my highlighter. I'm going to click on a yellow highlighter, and that way you can see where I've made that change, and I'd like you to do that for me as well. All right, let's see if I can find one more, and that's going to be your goal today, is to find at least 2 places where you can add dialogue or maybe fix up the dialogue. Now mine sadly does not really have dialogue. Some of you did a great job of putting dialogue in there. And if that was you, then just see if you can change up the word said to something else, if you feel that there's enough dialogue in it. Mine, again, I didn't really have dialogue, so I need to see if I can fix that up a little bit. Sorry, taking the highlight off. All right, so another spot where I can do that. We were still really hungry because we didn't have dinner yet, so the first thing we did was to start looking for food. The mall we were at had a huge food court. We had lots of options. Margot decided that she wanted to have Chinese food from Panda Express, while Alexis wanted tacos from Taco King. I was craving a big, juicy cheeseburger. Luckily, there was a burger boy in the food court. We all cooked up our favorites and sat down to eat. With its gooey melted cheese and its stacks of pickles, it was the most delicious cheeseburger I ever ate. When our tummies were full, we discussed what we should do next. Okay, so as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, I probably could do some more dialogue in here. Maybe I can say something that shows how hungry we really were. I haven't had Alexis talk yet, so we were still really hungry because we didn't have dinner yet. So maybe right here, I'll stick something in there. So my stomach is growling. Let's try that. My stomach is growling. Groaned Alexis. Mine too. Said Margot. Oops, I just put my quotation marks in the wrong spot, so my quotation marks need to go after the part that she said. There we go. Mine too, said Margot. Let's get something to eat. Let's find something to eat. Let's find something to eat. Should I say I said? I don't know. Let's find something to eat. I suggested. Let's go with suggested. I suggested. And then I can do uppercase on my S, and that should be the first of my sentence. So the first thing we did was start to look for food. Nope, I don't like that. So I'm going to just put, we started looking for food. So I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff because I want my reading to make sense. We started looking for food. There, that sounds better. We were still really hungry because we didn't have dinner yet. My stomach is growling, groaned Alexis. Mine too, said Margot. Let's find something to eat, I suggested. We started looking for food. The mall we were at had a huge food court, so I just added some feeling and some expression to my writing, and I think I like that a lot better. So I am going to highlight that again, just so that way you can see what it is that I changed up, where I added my dialogue or where I changed my dialogue, one or the other, and going on from there. So what your job is today, I want you to find at least 2 spots where you can add a dialogue to your writing, or you can go back to some of those places where you use that word said quite often and change that to something that fits in there still, but gives it a little bit more expression or a little bit more detail. So maybe you change the word said when somebody is very excited to the word hollered. Or maybe if somebody is thinking something is funny, instead of responding with said, you might say that they giggled, right? So your job is, again, you're going to find 2 places where you can either add dialogue or where you change your word said to something else that's more fitting. Okay, so your goal is at least 2, but as any good writer knows, sometimes you need more than 2. So if you feel that yours needs more than 2 changes, please feel free to make as many changes as you need. When you're finished with that, go ahead and add it in, attach it to this assignment, and turn it in.